Hi everyone, my name is Ravi Krishna Janyavala and welcome to my channel Ravi Tech Talks. Please do like and subscribe to get notifications. Let us get started with our course Microsoft Azure IoT. In this video, we will look at Azure IoT Hub device provisioning services. We will also have an overview of what is Azure IoT device provisioning service, creating a device provisioning service, and how do we create new enrollments with the device provisioning service, and linking IoT hubs with the DPS. So what is device provisioning service or DPS? The IoT Hub device provisioning service is a helper service available for us on Azure, which enables us with zero touch and just in time provisioning of devices on the right IoT Hub without requiring any human interaction. And DPS enables provisioning of millions of devices as well in a secure and a scalable manner. So previously, whenever in our demos, we were provisioning our devices manually or using Azure portal. So that is good on all for one or two devices. But let us say when you are deploying multiple devices and millions of devices. So in that scenario, you need to have a service where it can do its own registration or provisioning automatically with our IoT Hub. So to help us with that, we use device provisioning services. Okay. So as you can see, devices provisioning services, it's an auto provisioning service for IoT devices. It is highly scalable and it can connect to multiple IoT hubs. So it's like if you are having 20 devices, you can configure 10 devices to be connected or registered or provisioned with IoT Hub 1, and you can configure the other 10 devices to be provisioned or registered with your IoT Hub 2. And you have different allocation policies also here, which we'll look at in some time. So allocation policy is nothing but which device should get allocated to which IoT hub, such sort of logic or policies. Okay. And device provisioning service also supports cross region support. So let us say your device one need to be registered to an IoT hub in region US, and your device 2 need to be registered with an IoT hub in region South India also. So a single device provisioning service can do that cross region operations. Okay. And previously on Azure IoT Hub, to interact with Azure IoT Hub, we have seen different permissions which are required, like registry read, registry write, and all. So to register the devices with our device with our Azure IoT Hub, the device provisioning service, it requires few permissions on the Azure IoT Hub. That is service, we need to give it service connect, registry read, and registry write permissions. We will look at it in some time. Okay. So apart from this, on Azure IoT Hub level, we have seen that Azure IoT Hub supports different sort of attestation, like symmetric keys, X509 certificates, and TPM modules. So when we are provisioning devices on IoT Hub, we choose any of these attestations. So similarly, when we want to register these devices, our device provisioning service also supports these attestations, which are supported by Azure IoT Hub. And whatever data is being transmitted with the device provisioning service during rest, it's all encrypted with 256-bit AES encryption, so that it's secure. And on Azure IoT Hub, we have seen that it uses MQTT, AMQP, and HTTPS protocols. And the similarly, even device provisioning service also has support for MQTT, AMQP, and HTTPS. And in case you are having any firewall port restriction, there will be one inbound port with 443, which will always be enabled. So in that case, you can even use MQTT over WebSocket and AMQP over WebSocket with device provisioning service as well. So once we are creating device provisioning service, there will be another term inside it called as enrollment, another activity. So this is nothing but which device can register with IoT Hub. So that you need to do a whitelisting, right? So not every device you want to register over the IoT Hub. So only you need to configure which devices can be registered over the IoT Hub. And if let us say there are 10 devices which support MQTT, and there are 10 devices which support HTTP, or you might say there are 5 devices which support your country or specific region, then you can group them along, and you can create even enrollment groups as well. Okay, and you can configure those enrollment groups. And if you want register single IoT device with a IoT hub, you can even create individual enrollments also. Okay, and the allocation policies also, as I have discussed previously, it supports it has different allocation policies. We will look at it in some time. Okay, and it does provide us support with device twins as well. So we have previously seen that device twins are nothing but digital twins on the device level, which are maintained both on the device level as well as on our Azure portal. So if we want to report any property, or if we want to get back any property from if we want to set any property on the IoT device, we will set it as a desired property in portal, and it will be synced up with the device. And if the device want to set some property, it sets it in a reported property and it syncs up in our Azure IoT hub. So when you are registering a device, so if you want to give it any initial digital twin, you can even configure that, and when the device is getting registered, that digital twin will get set as a device twin. Okay, and there will be two more terms in your exam which you might have to, which you need to have a clear picture on, that is disenrollment and deprovisioning. So as we discussed, enrollment is nothing but registering our device with an Azure IoT hub. So disenrollment is nothing but preventing a device from registering with our IoT hub in a future. Okay, so let us say I am having device 1 which is registered with IoT hub 1, and now I have configured it for a disenrollment. So in future, if IoT hub 1 sorry, device 1 is trying to connect with register itself with the IoT hub 1, it will not be able to register. But in our scenario, since it is already registered, it will be able to still send the data to the IoT hub. So but let us say because of something we deregistered the IoT hub as well, sorry, the device as well from IoT hub, and it is trying to re-register again, then it will prevent it because it is in the disenrollment list. Okay, so in the disenrollment, it stops us from it prevents us prevents the device from registering with the IoT hub. But if it is already registered, it cannot prevent it from sending data to the IoT hub. Okay, so that's where deprovisioning comes in. So deprovisioning is nothing but disenrolling, as at the same time removing it from the IoT hub itself, so that if we want to prevent the data also going from the device to the IoT hub. So here we are disenrolling it, at the same time we are removing that particular device from the IoT hub, so that it will not be able to re-register again, and if it is already registered, it will not be able to send any data to the IoT hub. So these are the two important terms, disenrollment and deprovisioning of device, which you need to have a clear picture on what are the differences here. Okay. So the Azure device provisioning service, it has its own limitations, or you can say quotas. Okay, so per subscription you cannot have more than 10 device provisioning services, and inside each device provisioning service you cannot have more than 100 enrollment groups. Okay, and you can only enroll 1 million, you can only have 1 million enrollment requests or 1 million registration requests. Okay, and 200 requests per minute is something what default configuration we get. So if 200 devices are trying to register with IoT hub, so they send 200 requests to the DPS. So per minute it allows 200. So let us say you want to support more devices, more requests, so then you need to increase your DTU. So by default we get the DTU as 1 or 2, so you can increase that, and then it will throttle those requests and it will support all those registrations. But by default you get only 200 registration requests per minute on the DPS, and maximum of 50 IoT hubs can be linked. As I was saying previously, it can support multiple IoT hubs, like say 10 devices you want to register with IoT hub 1, and 10 devices you want to register with IoT hub 2. So you need to link both the IoT hubs to your DPS, so that your allocation policy will register the devices accordingly to any of your IoT hubs which are linked to that particular DPS. So like that, if you maximum of 50 IoT hubs can be linked to your device provisioning service. Hope that gave you a clear picture. Okay, there are different roles and operations what goes into this Azure supporting Azure device provisioning service. As you know, we used to previously manually do the process of registering a device on the Azure IoT Hub. Now, if we want this to be automatic and zero touch, there are few roles and operations which need to be done by few actors. So in that, first one will be the device manufacturer. Okay, so the device manufacturer or the industry person who is creating the device, they need to provide us with a facility where the identity of the device can be encoded and the registration URL can be encoded and the scope ID can also be encoded into the device. So whenever we are creating an Azure device provisioning service, it gives us a registration URL, it gives us a scope ID. So these are the two important things. So those two things need to be there on the device level, so that the device will call that registration URL with that scope ID, and it will even send its own device identity details. So all these three details need to be there on the device, and that is configured by the device manufacturer. Okay, we will have a demo on creating the Azure device provisioning service. Then I will be showing you the registration URL and the scope ID where we can get them. Okay, so let us say the manufacturer, he's creating the device, he's manufacturing the device. So after the device is manufactured, so inside that there need to be a program which has the device identity, registration URL of the DPS and the scope ID. Okay, so the next role will be the device itself. So whenever the device turns on itself for the first time, so it will have its registration URL with itself, it will have the scope ID, it will have its own identity details. So it will send those details across to the Azure device provisioning service. Okay, so here you can clearly see the manufacturer, he is storing the registration URL, encoding the identity, and providing the scope, everything, all those details here in the device level. Okay, so now the manufacturer has given the device identity as device 1. Okay, so now at the device level you can see that the device is when it first boots up, it is trying to register itself by calling the registration URL, that is nothing but the Azure device provisioning service registration URL. Using that registration URL, scope ID, and its device identity, so with these three things it is trying to register itself. So how does Azure device provisioning service know that this device is a valid device? So the device has made the call with its identity, scope ID, and registration URL, but let us say there might be some different malfunctioning, or let us say a hacker has a device and he knows our registration URL, he knows our scope ID, and he knows there might be a device with this device hyphen some number. So he has created an device like that, and he's trying to call our Azure device provisioning service. So how does our provisioning service know that it's an authentic device? So that's where this role of an operator comes in. So the manufacturer, he is giving the device identity details, and whatever device identity details he's created, he's giving these details to the operator as well. Okay, so this operator, what he does is, sorry, just let me go back. Yeah, so this operator, what he does is, he goes to the Azure device provisioning service on the Azure portal, and he will make a whitelist, or he will make a configuration of all the devices provided by the manufacturer, saying that these are the list of devices what are manufactured by the manufacturer. So if you are so this is the whitelist of devices. So anytime device provisioning service is getting a request from these list of devices, it will be able to register them with the proper IoT hub. So if it is not getting a device, if it is not getting any device from that particular list, it will not register that device with an IoT hub. So it will be like this configuration is mostly like a whitelisting. Okay, so that the operator need to do. Okay, so the operator will do the whitelisting or configuration of the devices on the Azure device provisioning service, which are provided by the manufacturer. So at this time, when the device is trying to boot up and register with the Azure Device Provisioning Service, the provisioning service, it checks the list what it was configured previously, and it will give it access. And if there are any allocation policies, like say like device 1 need to be registered with IoT Hub 1, or device 2 need to be registered with IoT Hub 4 or 5, like that. So based on the allocation policy, it will register that particular device on the Azure IoT Hub, and it will get that particular device ID which was created on the Azure IoT Hub, and it will send it back to the particular device. Okay, and the device, not just the device ID, the connection string and all the details which are required for the device to communicate in the future. So those details, when the device receives it, it stores it internally, and it will use those details for further communication with our Azure IoT Hub. Okay, so there is another role here, that is of a developer. So we come in between of these two things, because so whatever the software development activity is there, that is the software which is going to be there on the device, and we provide the registration URL identity as parameters also, right? So using the SDK, device provisioning SDK as well, we do the development on the device level. At the same time, if we want to have custom allocation policies, or if you want to have anything like that, so the developer will be taking care of it. Okay, so as you can see, we are doing the registration software, we are building it and deploying it on the device level. Okay, so yes, so here the devices linking, so which device need to be registered with which IoT hub, so that is all configured by the operator level. So based on that, whenever we are getting registration, it is configured. Hope this roles and operations are clear. So if you have any doubts, you can comment further and I will respond to you. Okay, and coming to the allocation policies, so previously I was saying multiple times about allocation policies in device provisioning service. So these are the four configurations what we get on the Azure device provisioning service when we are creating it. Okay, so whenever we are creating an enrollment group, we will be getting these allocation policies. The default one is evenly weighted distribution. That is nothing but, let us say you are having 4 devices and you are having 3 Azure IoT hubs. So the first device will go to first Azure IoT hub, and second device will go to second Azure IoT hub, third device will go to third, and the fourth one will again come back to the first. So it will almost try to evenly distribute the number of devices with the IoT hub. So it will try to evenly distribute, and if there is an odd device, it will go to the next one what is available. So like the example I gave you. And coming to the another option what you have is the lowest latency. That is nothing but, so let us say you are having 10 devices, so and there are 5 IoT hubs. So based, your device might not be in the same location. Some of the devices might be in US, some of the devices might be in India, some of the devices might be in UK, and your IoT hubs might also be like, one IoT hub might be in US, UK, and then in India, like that. So based on the device and based on the nearest IoT hub, that is the lowest latency. So based on the ping between the device and the Azure IoT hub, the ping in microseconds. Okay, so if the ping based on the lowest ping, it will be giving, it will be assigning the device, registering the particular device with that Azure IoT hub. Okay, so if you want to know what is the, sorry, yeah, so if you want to know what is the exact ping for different devices, you can go to that website, azurespeed.com. So here you can check based on different regions and based on different services what is the latency you will get. Okay, what is the amount of ping you will get. Here I'm saying central, and I'm saying Canada Central. Okay, so here you are able to see the ping of it, right? How much microseconds it is going to take to respond. So based on this ping, it is going to allocate the lowest latency IoT hub for that particular device. Okay, and next is the static configuration. So static configuration is nothing but a whitelist or an Excel or a similar configuration where you can say like this device need to be registered with device 1 need to be registered with device IoT hub 1, device 2 need to be registered with IoT hub 4. So like that you can specify the list beforehand itself. So as I said, the operator will get a list of all the devices. So when the operator is configuring for the provisioning on the device provisioning service, he can choose any of those options, and if he's selecting a static configuration, he can do that configuration, and when the device is registering, it will be registered to that particular IoT hub. So that is your static configuration. And coming to custom allocation policy. So custom allocation policy is nothing but your own custom implementation you can do inside there based on your dynamic rules or anything like that. So this is achieved by using Azure functions. So you need to create an Azure function and you need to deploy the Azure function. And after deploying the Azure function, you need to select your Azure function in the drop down list as a custom allocation, and then you need to give the URL to your Azure function. So I'll not be demoing that completely, but I because that's not in your not in our current IoT exam topic. It was there previously, but it is good to know because you might want to go for custom allocation policies. So that's where I'll be showing you the code, but I won't be giving you a demo on that. So you'll be configuring an Azure function. So what does Azure function do is whenever a device comes to register to the Azure DPS, the DPS will send the device ID and the details, whatever is sent from the device level to the Azure function. And based on the device ID, let us say the device ID has a car hyphen or a region like US hyphen device 01, India hyphen 0 hyphen device 01, or uh, car hyphen Hyundai hyphen, like that. So based on such sort of substrings, you can write your functionality to register that particular device to a particular IoT hub. So let us say we are having a IoT hub for car and we are having a IoT hub for a truck. So if an device comes with us saying car hyphen US hyphen device 01, so in my logic I will say like it is a car, so it need to be registered with a car related IoT hub, and its region is US. So I would say register this with the IoT hub car hyphen US 01 because it belongs to that. And if a truck is coming, truck hyphen India hyphen device 01, if I get that, I will say like based on this name prefixes, register this with a different IoT hub. So such sort of custom functionality you can program it in your Azure functions, and you can tag it as your custom allocation policy, and it will take that into consideration, and the function returns to which IoT hub this device need to be tagged to. So it will automatically register it to that. So that is the custom allocation policy. Have a nice day.